If you ever find yourself flipping through late-night subspace channels, you might stumble across a syndicated relic called the Universal Variety Vessel. The program was an interstellar talent show produced by budget-conscious merchants from the Betelgeuse Bazaar, and it featured three judges who, on paper, presented a glorious triad of expertise. Lady Fluria, a Venusian ballerina who could pirouette in molten lead; Max Gravitas Gromley, Earth's most aggressively bland talk show host; and, completing the trio, Krelgurk of Splorve, an eight-eyed, 12-tentacled being whose resume simply said, "I enjoy clapping." What the producers failed to notice was that Krelgurk's concept of clapping involved pulverizing objects into atoms, and his idea of applause translated roughly as, "I acknowledge your existence, fragile biped." None of this was flagged in the initial background check because Splorvians file all paperwork by screaming it into black holes. The season I'm about to describe became infamous, circulated through multiple solar systems as an instructional video titled "This is Why You Read the Fine Print." By the finale, insurance companies had written new clauses that explicitly excluded all damages caused by misinterpreted Splorvian approval signals. But let's not jump ahead. The chaos began quietly, with a dress rehearsal in which Krelgurk tried to shake the usher's hand, a perfectly cordial gesture, except that his hand was a prehensile stinger that secreted lime green mucus. The usher spent 20 minutes thanking him before realizing her blazer had dissolved. Producers considered replacing Krelgurk, but decided instead to provide a crash course in galactic etiquette. They hired Dr. Twilq, a monotone Andromedan etiquette bot, to explain the difference between a standing ovation and a cease and desist. Krelgurk listened politely, nodding 8 eye stalks in unison, then asked a single question. "When I like something, may I inflate my side bladder?" Dr. Twilq checked his reference logs, found nothing, and answered, "Surely, inflating one's bladder is a universally welcome symbol of respect." Spoiler, it wasn't. Episode 1 opened with all the managers holding electro clipboards and whispering prayers to their respective deities. The stage lights rose. The audience, a mix of humans, androids, and a cluster of photonic beings who rented 3 seats yet occupied none, quieted to a buzz. The host, a flamboyant Nebulon with a haircut that looked like a comet's tail, announced, "First up, Darla and her carnivorous chrysanthemums." Darla waltzed on stage, pushing a wheelbarrow full of plants that drooled sap. The trick involved singing opera arias while the flowers performed synchronized snaps. Darla completed her high C, the flowers promptly ate her sheet music, then turned their fanged petals toward the judges. Lady Fluria activated a Venusian hover escape. Max Gromley ducked behind his note cards. Krelgurk, meanwhile, couldn't have been happier. He interpreted the carnivorous choreography as a bold statement on the fragility of paper. With exuberance, he extended 4 tentacles, each giving a hearty Splorvian thumbs up, technically a suction cup slap accompanied by the sound of 2 meteors colliding. The impact toppled the judges' table. A camera drone spiraled into the orchestra pit. The audience gasped. Darla and her plants, mistaking the noise for thunder, devoured the stage curtain and exited through the drywall. After emergency crews removed the last vine from the sound mixer's hair, the host returned, microphone trembling. "An enthusiastic response from Judge Krelgurk," he declared, voice cracking. The scoreboard lit up. "Krell gave it a perfect 10. The carnivorous chrysanthemums advanced to the quarter-finals. Darla, bandaged but beaming, thanked Krelgurk in 3 languages. No one had the heart to tell her he thought she was the appetizer. Backstage scuttlebutt spread instantly. If you wanted to impress the Splorvian, you needed carnage. Performers adjusted routines accordingly, trading safe small talk for pyrotechnics and ethically ambiguous stunts. The producers, weighted down by legal disclaimers, reminded everyone that insurance covered only normal levels of showbiz mayhem. The performers nodded, then stapled firecrackers to their props. Act 2 featured Juggles the Magnificent, a human clown who originally planned to juggle glowing orbs while reciting Shakespeare. In light of recent developments, he replaced the orbs with malfunctioning anti-gravity grenades. On stage, Juggles lofted the grenades with a showman's grin. Each orb spun, emitting tiny galaxies of sparks. Halfway through To Be or Not To, a grenade misfired, rocketing into the rafters and ripping an 8-meter gash in the roof. Artificial atmosphere whistled away. Fortunately, shields deployed in time to keep the audience from being vacuumed to the moon. Max Gromley clutched his lapel mic, shrieking, "Security! Contain those bombs!" Lady Fluria executed a triple axel inside her force field suit. Krelgurk, eyes glittering like polished nebulae, sensed artistry. He rose. Well, portions of him rose. Splurvians lack standard hips, and delivered an ovation. 6 tentacles up, 2 wrapping lovingly around the judge's buzzer, which he pounded until it sparked. The show's graphic confetti cannons, "Judge Favorite!" blasted across all monitors. Crew members wrestled grenades into a lead box. Juggles bowed, tears of relief smearing his clown makeup until he resembled a watercolor meltdown. Offstage, he asked Krelgurk for feedback. The Splorvian replied, "Your circular projectiles expressed existential dread elegantly. Also, I enjoyed the sudden ventilation enhancement." Juggles, mishearing through ringing ears, interpreted this as, "You nailed your truth." He proceeded to write a memoir titled Grenades of Grace. The third act, Mildred and the Mime Mimes, consisted of 6 identical clones performing silent illusions while dressed as spotlights. Their original bit a subtle commentary on invisible labor was scrapped for something they called Oblivion Box. Picture a colossal glass cube into which the mimes funneled compressed shadows they'd imported from the dark side of Rigel. The shadows were supposed to swirl poetically. Instead, the cube cracked, and literal darkness seeped into the studio, extinguishing lumens like hungry octopi. Total blackout. Screams. The photonic beings in the front row fainted in existential horror. Technically, they vanished, but their ticket stubs fluttered. Stagehands wielded glow sticks, which were promptly devoured by the creeping void. In the gloom, a single spotlight clicked on, revealing Krelgurk. His side bladder inflated with admiration, unfolding like a grotesque parachute emblazoned with bioluminescent polka dots. In Splorvian culture, unveiling the bladder is the highest compliment, akin to writing a sonnet. Nobody else knew this. They assumed he'd metamorphosed into attack mode. Panic ensued. It took 20 minutes and a portable sunrise generator to re-illuminate the studio. By then, Mildred and the mimes were curled under the judge's table, shivering. The host, voice quavering, announced, "A rousing response from Judge Krelgurk." The scoreboard again awarded perfect marks. The other judges' protestations disappeared beneath the roar of Krelgurk's internal fans cooling his overexcited arterial geysers. Viewers at home found the spectacle riveting, ratings skyrocketed, social media buzzed, tentacle thumbs trended for 8 consecutive days, although a mistranslation on planet Zilfurb turned it into "thumb your tentacles," sparking a separate movement that we do not have time to unpack here. Episode 2 opened with insurers camping outside, drafting addenda in real time. An executive approached Krelgurk privately, explaining that while his enthusiasm was a gift to the show, perhaps he could limit bodily inflation to special occasions. Krelgurk solemnly listened, then reached a tentacle into his satchel and offered the executive a delicacy: physio-reactive mood gum. The gum modifies flavor based on the chewer's subconscious feelings. The exec tasted fear. 2 chews later, he burst into tears, thanked Krelgurk for this therapeutic breakthrough, and forgot the original request. The night's first act was an elderly duo named the Dynamo Grannies. They rode mobility scooters customized with rocket thrusters. Their plan? Weave heart-shaped patterns across the stage while knitting a scarf out of plasma filament. Unfortunately, they miscalculated the thruster's thrust. At ignition, both scooters shot forward, smashed through the orchestra pit, and vanished into backstage storage, leaving twin streaks of smoke shaped like disapproving eyebrows. The scarf ignited, forming a swirling helix of neon wool flailing across the set. Max Gromley attempted commentary. "Well, that's certainly..." Lady Floria levitated to a chandelier and began orchestrating fire suppression drones. The audience, well versed by now, donned complimentary heat shields distributed in the lobby. Krelgerk leaned forward, transfixed. To him, the runaway scooters symbolized freedom from chronological oppression. He didn't just give tentacle thumbs up, he detached a mini tentacle, sprinkled it with stardust, and presented it to the grannies as a medal of valor. The fragment wiggled, emitting ambient applause noises. The Dynamo grannies accepted it like a Nobel Prize, unaware it would molt in 7 hours and eat their pantry. The pattern continued. Every catastrophe drew greater praise. Acts began competing to engineer the most creative calamity, hoping to earn Krelgerk's approval, which guaranteed advancement, sponsorships, and a spot on the holographic cereal box Stars and Scars. The audience conditioned itself to cheer whenever sparks flew. Meanwhile, safety officers resigned en masse, citing philosophical objections. Halfway through the season, Lady Fluria attempted a coup. She called an emergency panel urging producers to clarify judging criteria. Artistry, difficulty, audience connection. These must matter, she insisted, point shoes clicking with indignation. Max Gromley, still traumatized from inhaling mime shadow, muttered, "I just want to host a golf podcast." The head producer, calculating ad revenue, responded with a shrug emoticon and offered Fluria a bonus hazard stipend. Flurry accepted but vowed to restore order. She hatched a plan with the next contestant, a shy telepath named Zibbet. His act, reading the audience's collective thoughts and turning them into music. In rehearsal, his performance created haunting harmonies, a tapestry of hopes and memories. Flurry believed genuine beauty might pivot Krelgerk's tastes. She forgot one crucial detail. Splurvians have built-in telepathic filters that translate psychic melodies into lunch menus. When Zibbet began, a hush fell. Ethereal notes floated across the room like scented fog. Viewers felt goosebumps. Krelgerk felt ravenous. He heard not symphonic wonder, but the culinary equivalent of elevator music. Today's specials: fried neutron dumplings, gravity-reduced soup, roasted quack kebabs. His side bladder deflated, his tentacles drooped. After 90 seconds, he pressed the reject buzzer so hard it cracked the sound barrier, physically ejecting Zibbet off stage via sonic boom. The poor telepath ricocheted into the catwalks, cartwheeling like discarded confetti. The audience sat thunderstruck. Fluria's gamble backfired. Krelgerk, sensing disappointment in the crowd, attempted comfort. He produced a hologram of dancing platypuses breathing starlight. A small boy in row H pointed and screamed, "Mommy, the octopus clown is broken." Krelgerk retracted the hologram, mortified. Rumor says this was the only moment he questioned his judging style, but records are fuzzy because the Arcus fainted from prolonged adrenaline exposure. With 2 episodes until finals, the show reached mythic infamy. Viewership topped lunar elections. Tourism agencies sold packages for front-row splash zone seats. Medical interns lined aisles with crash carts, and disclaimers played before every commercial break. Warning: participating may result in existential whiplash. Contestants now incorporated disclaimers into their routines, emblazoned on drones that circled overhead like legal vultures. Semi-final night opened with Professor Boom and her probabilistic piano. The piano's keys triggered random quantum events. A lavender snowstorm, spontaneous beard growth, recitations of parliamentary law. For rehearsal, the chaos had been charming. Live, it escalated. Key number 12 inverted gravity in a 10-foot radius, causing the piano to hover upside down. Key 37 transformed applause into rubber chickens, pelting the audience like confetti with beaks. Key 42 opened a micro-wormhole through which 3 disgruntled librarians from another dimension arrived, shushed everyone, and vanished. Max Gromley wore a poncho that read, "I have regrets." Lady Fluria performed crisis ballet, pirouetting to deflect chickens. Krelgerk nodded sagely as though following an intelligible plot, then bestowed such an enthusiastic tentacle thumbs up that vibrations registered on seismographs 2 continents away. The probabilistic piano advanced unanimously. Fluria abstained, but abstention had been outlawed in episode 3, when a performer sued for insufficient reaction. The penultimate contestant, Salutator the Sword Swallower, hoped to harness Krelgerk's admiration by swallowing not swords but a dismantled hover cycle set ablaze. The stunt proceeded fine until the rear thruster ignited mid-swallow, propelling Salutator backward across the stage like a human fireworks rocket. He crashed through 12 set pieces and landed in the dunk tank reserved for malfunctioning robots. The cycle's fuel ignited the water, turning it into a pillar of steam visible from orbit. Medics raced. Salutor emerged coughing, hair singed yet smiling, an outcome considered moderately successful. Krelgurk, touched by the emotional arc, courage, combustion, catharsis, awarded a rare standing ovation. By now, everyone understood that his species clapped by pulverizing matter, so stagehands wheeled out a sacrificial boulder, which Krelgurk obediently smashed into dust. The pulverized debris, aglow from kinetic friction, formed a shimmering column that spelled Yai in Morse code, purely by coincidence. Viewers wept. Finale night arrived like a comet, bright, over-advertised, and possibly fatal. The remaining acts, Carnivorous Chrysanthemums, Grenades of Grace, formerly Juggles, Mildred's Shadow Collective, Dynamo Grannies, Probabilistic Piano, and Salutator prepared apocalyptic combos to woo their crucial Swarvian patron. The producers installed emergency teleport pads beneath every seat. Oddsmakers refused to take bets unless gamblers provided notarized last wills. Backstage, contestants forged alliances. The Chrysanthemums offered to shoot acid sap at Salutator's hover cycle, while Mildred's shadows masked visibility, all timed to the piano's key 27, which generated fireworks shaped like regret. The Dynamo Grannies promised to circle the carnage on turbo scooters, knitting a triumphant banner reading, Chouse for ever. Juggles, holding his last two grenades, shouted, "Group number," everyone agreed. They rehearsed for 17 seconds. It went terribly, so they considered it perfect. The host, already drafting a eulogy, welcomed the audience. A hush, or perhaps anticipatory tinnitus, fell, then the lights exploded to life. Smoke, laser nets. The mega act began. Step 1. The piano produced a localized snowfall of fluorescent nacho crumbs. Step 2. The chrysanthemum spat corrosive sap that melted props into Dali-esque puddles. Step 3. Juggles lobbed twin grenades skyward. They collided, birthing a spiral of electric rage that tore open the ceiling again, revealing constellations in high definition. Step 4. Mildred's shadows lunged, cloaking everything in velvet oblivion. Amidst darkness, the Dynamo Granny's scooters traced glowing patterns, though one granny lost control and soared into the upper tiers, cheering Geronimo. Salutator swallowed half the hover cycle. The other half exploded prematurely, launching him like a badminton birdie against a security shield. From the judges' table, perspective was pure abstract expressionism. Lady Floria executed disaster ballet, deflecting debris with arabesques. Max Grontley, beyond words, mentally resigned. Krelgurk's heart's plural swelled. This wasn't merely talent, it was a cosmic symphony of entropy. He rose, side bladder inflating to double capacity, tentacles forming a 12-point star in honor usually reserved for Splorian coronations. But Krelgurk craved something grander. He initiated a Splorvian ritual known as the Cascade of Affirmation, which humans later dubbed the Super Thumbs Up. Phase 1, resonant hum. His thorax emitted tones that vibrated set walls loose. Phase 2, the tentacles rotated like propellers, stirring air currents. Phase 3, he struck the golden gong of final endorsement, a fist-sized orb he'd hidden in his cloak. The gong's wavelength interacted violently with the probabilistic piano's key 38, accidentally struck by a falling granny. A chain reaction triggered. Time stuttered. For 3 seconds, everyone experienced events out of order. Applause before action, smoke turning into unburnt cloth, screams inhaling themselves. When the universe stapled itself back together, the stage resembled a modern, ruin-broken arches, smoldering chrysanthemums, a piano fused with a scooter into an art piece titled Why. Silence held. Then Krelgurk, glowing with fervor, issued his verdict. The studio's remaining walls collapsed from the resonance of his voice. The live feed cut to commercial featuring pudding. Viewers assumed it was intentional performance art and applauded at home. Across galaxies, commentators proclaimed it the moment art finally transcended meaning. Aftermath reports varied, Some swear the show went on for another hour in a pocket of accelerated time. Others claim the finale ended precisely there, with everyone evacuated by teleport pads and gifted souvenir towels embroidered, "I survived the madness." What we know: no fatalities, several spontaneous career changes, and a measurable drop in universal ennui for a fortnight. Krelgurk returned to Splore 4 a celebrity. He taught seminars on constructive encouragement titled Thumbs Up Your Life. Enrollment soared. Meanwhile, producers retooled the program into a calmer spin-off, The Gentle Showcase, featuring napping kittens and ASMR flute solos, none of which Krelgurk could judge, as he now served as ambassador of enthusiasm to the allied nebulae. As for the former contestants, their fame blossomed. The carnivorous chrysanthemums landed a gardening show where they devour invasive species. Juggle's memoir became hollow play, presented entirely inside blast-proof domes. Mildred licensed her shadows as eco-friendly nightlights. The Dynamo Grannies patented rocket-assisted knitting needles. Salutator opened a dental clinic specializing in hover cycle removal. And the probabilistic piano, sold at auction, now sits in a museum exhibit under 24-hour guard, behind a sign reading, "Caution, may turn beards into rubber chickens." Legend persists that somewhere in the ruins of the original set, one of Krelgurk's detached mini tentacles still wiggles, issuing tiny suction cup thumbs up to any passing cockroach. Scholars debate whether this proves talent is in the eye of the beholder or that we all secretly crave harmless chaos. Either way, should you hear distant gong harmonies echoing through space, remember, the universe sometimes applauds by mistaking calamity for genius, handing out tentacle thumbs up to anyone bold or foolish enough to juggle grenades in the dark.